The floor above. Darius Bennett opened his eyes exactly 5 minutes before the alarm buzzed, just as he had every morning for the past 9 years. He didn't need the noise. His body had long adjusted to the rhythm of sacrifice. Silently, he reached over to switch it off, careful not to disturb the woman sleeping beside him. His wife, Camille, lay with her back turned to him, her dark curls spilling over the pillow like a quiet river. Even in sleep, her face showed traces of exhaustion, the kind that comes not from work alone, but from holding a family together with bare hands. She balanced home, raised their 2 young children, and still managed to sell her handmade goods online to help stretch his modest paycheck just a little further. In the room down the hall, 7-year-old Jordan and 5-year-old Lila were still dreaming. Darius tiptoed in, kissed their foreheads, brushed a curl from Lila's cheek, and left the room with a heaviness that had nothing to do with fatigue. It was guilt. He was missing the little things: bedtime stories, school recitals, pancakes on Saturday mornings. He wanted to be there more. But bills didn't wait for love. Down in the kitchen, he found his lunchbox already prepped, neatly stacked in the same green tote Camille had used for 3 years. Taped to the top was a small folded note in her careful handwriting. "Everything will be okay today. We love you." He smiled, half real, half sorrow. How could she still carry hope so gracefully when he'd already let it slip through the cracks? The bus to the city was packed, as always, a symphony of silence, sleepy heads nodding with every stop. He stared out the window as the skyline crept closer, the sun bleeding between high rises like a tired promise. The 20-story office building downtown wasn't much to look at, but for a long time, it had been his symbol of arrival. 5th floor, Metro Line design and build. Inside the building's lobby, the scent of brewed coffee and polished tile filled the air. Behind the front desk sat Lorraine, a woman in her early 60s whose gray hair framed a face both soft and wise. She'd been there since the building opened. "Morning, sunshine," she called, her eyes lighting up as she spotted Darius. "You bring that smile today." He offered her the best version of it he could manage. "Try my best, Lorraine. How are you?" "Better now that you're here," she said in a hushed tone. "By the way, there's a leftover cinnamon roll from yesterday's board meeting in the drawer. I'll sneak it up to your floor later." Her small kindnesses always warmed him. "You remind me of my son," she often said. "He's overseas now, but when I see you, it's like I've still got someone close." Darius took the elevator to the 5th floor and walked into a landscape of low gray partitions and flickering fluorescent lights. The air was always too dry, and the lighting always too harsh. He settled at his desk and opened the file on his current project, a cluster of low-cost housing units on the city's southeast side. It wasn't the kind of project other architects fought over: no glamorous towers, no shining facades. But for Darius, it was purpose. He wove in solar skylights, recycled gray water systems, passive ventilation, and locally sourced materials. He knew what it meant for families like his to have something safe, efficient, and warm. His train of thought broke with a familiar, clipped voice from the corner office. "Are the adjustments to the Bayfield Homes project done yet?" asked Gregory Langston, his supervisor of nearly a decade. "Almost, sir," Darius replied, swiveling toward the voice. "Some structural recalculations took longer than." "Less perfectionism, more productivity," Langston interrupted. "On my desk by noon, Bennett." Darius exhaled slowly and returned to his screen, ignoring the ache in his lower back. Langston hadn't always been like this. In the beginning, he'd praised Darius's commitment, his fresh ideas. But over the years, it had become clear loyalty wasn't reciprocated in this office. Only metrics mattered now. By noon, the updated plans were on Langston's desk. Darius headed to the pantry, unwrapped his sandwich, and stared at the wall while his mind listed unpaid bills: Jordan's field trip, Lila's inhaler refill, the refrigerator with a broken seal. Each bite tasted more like pressure than food. He was halfway through lunch when Langston burst in, red-faced and tight-lipped. "Do you think I've had time to eat today?" he snapped. "I didn't know, sir. I'm dealing with the fallout from your miscalculation. The client's furious. The budget went over." but I followed the specs to the letter. Enough. Langston's voice was razor sharp. You're off the project. In fact, you're off the team. HR's prepping your paperwork. Clear your desk by the end of the day. It was like someone had punched the wind out of him. 9 years. Gone. Just like that. 9 years of working through weekends, missing birthdays, delaying doctor visits. Promises of promotions. Praise that evaporated when convenient. He sat there, frozen, fork still in hand. A deep shame burned through him like frostbite. He returned to his desk, gathered a few belongings, his daughter's hand-painted cactus pot, a framed photo of the family at the beach, a worn leather notebook full of sketches. No one said anything. A few coworkers gave quiet nods. Others pretended not to notice. It was easier to ignore what might happen to them next. In HR, everything was a blur. The words severance and Cobra drifted past his ears like static. He signed the papers with a mechanical hand. What would he tell Camille? What would the kids think? On his way out, he kept his eyes low, but Lorraine spotted him instantly. She rose and hurried over. You're leaving early, she said, a voice full of concern. Everything all right? He tried to respond, but his throat tightened. She studied him, her expression shifting. It's not Ava or the kids, is it? He shook his head. No. Then let me go. For a moment, she was silent. Then, with a quiet fury, she said, That's unthinkable. You've given your whole soul to that place. She walked briskly to her desk, opened the bottom drawer, and pulled out a small cardboard box. I kept this for you, she said, handing it to him. Every time someone called about you, asking if you were available, I saved it. I know you always said no, said you were committed, said it wasn't the right time, but I held on to them. He opened the box, his fingers trembling. Inside were dozens of business cards, scribbled notes, and names he recognized. Green Earth Projects, Shelter Lab International, Innovate Urban Solutions, even one from United Nations Housing Program. Why didn't I know about this? He whispered. Because you kept saying no, sweetheart, she replied gently. You thought sticking around would lead to something better. But sometimes it just leads to more of the same. She touched his shoulder, her gaze firm. Go to the 17th floor. Right now. Trust me. He hesitated but nodded. The 17th floor elevator opened into an entirely different world. Floor-to-ceiling windows bathed the space in natural light. Plants thrived in every corner. Glass walls showed architectural renderings of vibrant, sustainable housing projects. It smelled like wood and greenery, not burnt coffee and toner. At the front desk, a young receptionist looked up and smiled. Can I help you? I'm here to submit a resume. Darius Bennett. She stood. We've been hoping to meet you. Moments later, she returned with a man in rolled sleeves and a kind smile. Darius Bennett, the man said, offering his hand. I'm Anthony Keene, and you, my friend, are the architect we've been chasing for years. Darius blinked, stunned. What do you know my name? 2 years ago, I toured the Harmony Square development. I was floored by the passive cooling system and gray water integration. I asked around, found out you were the architect. I tried contacting you several times. Darius suddenly understood. Langston had never forwarded the messages. He'd buried the offers. I never got any of them, Darius murmured. I'm not surprised, Anthony said. Their loss. For the next 2 hours, Darius walked through the offices of Skybound Studios, a firm at the forefront of sustainable architecture. They spoke his language: equity, affordability, dignity. By the end of the tour, Anthony handed him a contract. We want you to lead our social impact division, he said. Flexible schedule, remote options, double what you were making before. You'll be changing lives. When Darius left the building that day, he didn't feel unemployed. He felt seen. At home, he hesitated at the door. He stepped inside and was greeted by the smell of apple slices and peanut butter. Camille was helping Jordan with spelling words. Lila was drawing hearts on the tile floor in pink chalk. Daddy, she squealed, running to him. Camille immediately sensed something had shifted. Kids, she said gently, go wash up for your snack. At the kitchen table, he told her everything. The firing. Lorraine. The cards. Skybound. I'm scared, he admitted. What if I fail? She took his hands and looked straight into his soul. "You've already won," she said. "You just didn't know it yet." 1 year later, Darius stood in front of a crowd at the ribbon-cutting ceremony of a new housing community safe, green, affordable. His team had designed it. He had led it. His kids played nearby, their laughter echoing. Camille stood beside him, proud. On Sundays, they planned the renovation of their new homey, a modest but beautiful place they finally owned. Every weekday, Darius returned to the 17th floor of the same building, only now with a smile. At the reception desk, he always left a fresh box of pastries for Lorraine. "Thank you," he told her one morning. She waved him off. "All I did was keep your light from going out." Waiting for the elevator, he looked back one last time. Sometimes, the door that closes behind you isn't a wall. It's the elevator calling you to go higher. And this time, he was ready to rise.